Now, you may not know that one of the great founders of Atlantic Records in the 1950s was not just Ahmet Ertegun and his brother, but there was a third guy who was actually one of the great musical influences on popular music. He wrote the arrangement for Respect for Aretha Franklin. He wrote the arrangement for Son of a Preacher Man for Dusty Springfield. He wrote the arrangement for Gimme the Night for George Benson. He went on to produce hits for the Bee Gees, for Bette Midler, and for Chaka Khan, I Feel For You. Yes, it's the great Arif Mardin. I was very, very lucky to be able to interview him in 2003 and 2004. And this interview that you're going to see was done at his house. And I talked to him about some of the great records that he did, and especially about his wonderful arrangement work that he did as a producer. So just lie back and enjoy these great interviews with Arif Mardin. How does a pop arranger differ from a jazz arranger?
Well, let me answer it in a different way. I wear two hats. I'm a producer and an arranger. You know, there's different kinds of producers. You have a songwriter producer, engineer, recording engineer producer. I'm an arranger producer. So I think of enhancing the song with my arrangement and make it accessible to a certain segment of the record buying public. So I arrange according to style and the artist involved, and so actually it's a production arranging. A jazz arranger, which I also do, and thanks to my friend Ziggy Locke, I did a lot of at least one or two arrangements a year for the German Hamburg or the Cologne Orchestra. It's a pleasure. You just write your theme and orchestrate it, and leave space for the solos, you know, etc. So it's a different kind of arranging.
Would you say that it seems to me that, having been a pop arranger all my life, that it's really a great thing that pop arrangers have to come up with catchy stuff. They have to come up with little riffs.
Right, called hooks.
Hooks, indeed.
So that to hook the listener in.
Can you give an example, for instance, from one of your records of a little hook that you thought of and it kind of made the record more catchy?
Well, I think in Wind Beneath My Wings there are a lot of hooks. In Chaka Khan's I Feel For You, it's loaded with hooks. Do you want me to sing it? I don't remember.
No, we'll actually play the music. But, like, for instance, in I Feel For You, the song was by Prince. Now, how did your production of it differ from, I mean, did he give you a demo? How was it presented to you?
Oh, a song plugger from a publishing firm, Dale Kawashima, sent me the song. A lot of people, that Chaka and myself, we liked the song and we thought we could do something with it. And I was fortunate enough to work with Reggie Griffin, arranger. At that time he had a lot to do with Grandmaster Flash's Pioneer rap records. He was the arranger. So we worked together, and we truly loaded the song with hooks. I don't think they're all Prince's. We had our own.
But, I mean, for instance, when did you receive a demo from Prince?
Sure. The song was out, so we received a copy of Prince's version, that's all.
And did he comment to you about your version? Or
well, actually, I wanted him to play on it. I had a vision that have Stevie Wonder and Prince. Prince was on tour or something, so he couldn't do it. I don't think... the last time I saw him was like 1992 or something, and we had a very fleeting, encounter in his studio, and he smiled. So that must be that he liked.
Great. let's talk about, I mean, you mentioned briefly the idea of you working with other arrangers. Now, you know, you're a great arranger, and some great arrangers do work with other arrangers. Now, why would you, for instance, choose, what are the reasons you choose to work with another arranger?
Well, it was uncharted territory for me. It was hip-hop. I had to actually work with somebody who was in that field, and then also learn. I mean, while making that album, I watched John Roby, again another pioneer hip-hop producer, arranger. I watched him do dazzling edits. In those days we had tape, cut the tape. Incredible edits, and I learned that from him. So on I Feel For You, I emulated him by turning a piece of tape backwards and things like that. Then I also realized that electronic composers of you know, modern music apparently would do things like that all the time.
It seems to me that the word arranger, really programmer or synth arranger, these are all the same thing. I mean, a lot of people, I think programmers are, I suppose, the contemporary arrangers.
Let me. I think now, when you say arranger, it implies that you are also a programmer. The old style arranger would have a score pad, pencil, and an eraser, and would put every note on the score pad. Now, the same thing is done on computers, and you write your arrangement on the keyboard, press the button, and the paper comes out. So you have now a beautifully printed score. I use the first. Have a pencil, eraser, and a score pad, and I do that. However, when I send it out to be copied, it's computerized parts come out, which is fine.
Perhaps this is a good time to talk about the beginnings of your career as an arranger. Now, of course, you really famously got started in those early Atlantic days. Now, at that time, you were working as an arranger pretty strictly at the very beginning, isn't that right?
Right. I was the house arranger. Projects would come in. We have signed so-and-so artist. Give us a string arrangement. Or Wilson Pickett needs this, so a horn arrangement. You know, that kind of a situation, which was great for me because I learned from working with different artists, and they were all great artists. But my first starting was in Istanbul, Turkey, and I used to be, I had jazz musicians, friends, and I would ask him, how low does the tenor sax go? This is the note. Okay, what is that? A flat concert low. Okay, fine. And how high can the trumpet go? You know, and would then write arrangements for a small orchestra, you know, for a small jazz combo actually, and listen. And but with that knowledge, really learned from actually practice. When I came to Berklee College of Music in Boston, I already had a few things. In fact, the reason I went to Berklee is because I won a scholarship, the Quincy Jones Scholarship, because I had orchestrated and composed my compositions for a 10-piece orchestra, 2 trumpets, 1 trombone, tenor, alto, and baritone sax, and 3 rhythm, for a team of 1956 that Quincy Jones put together in New York. Art Farmer, Phil Woods, Hank Jones, you know, all these guys. And they played my pieces, and Quincy then sent the tape to the school. He said, I found the guy I want to give, the scholarship. And when I heard that tape, I said, did I write this? Because it was like so unbelievably played, you know. So I did have the knowledge. But when I came to Berklee College, I was fortunate to study with Herb Pomeroy. Herb Pomeroy's big band was then available for me. And I would write arrangements, copy the parts, copy them, you know, like until 5 in the morning. Big band, how many pieces? 18 pieces, and I used to copy. Maybe we'll have to explain what copying also means to the listener. And go to the rehearsal, listen to my arrangement, and he would critique it. This won't do, this is great, this is not good, you know. And so that was my really training ground at Berklee, writing for his superb band. Copying means that once you write a score on a master score paper, individual parts must be copied. First trumpet, second trumpet, third trumpet, saxophones, you know. So then you have to extract all these parts and put it on individual sheet music.
So when you came to the Atlantic days, now I know in the beginning a lot of the stuff was mono, so therefore there couldn't be too much overdubbing. Now were you...
There was. I mean, I'm interrupting you because in fact I wrote an article about the great engineer Tom Dowd, another of my teachers, will be in Pro Sound in May. Tom Dowd asked for an 8-track recorder, and the owners of Atlantic, the partners, Ahmet Erdogan, Nesuhi Erdogan, Jerry Wexler, agreed. They paid the money. They had an Ampex 8-track machine. The amplifiers would go like skyscrapers, you know, and it was a 2-inch tape, and he was able to overdub if he wanted to. It was used as a backup. He would record a session, and the producers would insist on a finished product, mono, with the correct reverb, with the correct equalization, correct cues, and he was such a great engineer that he would do that. But at the same time, he would record onto the 8-track simultaneously, probably leaving a few tracks open for overdubs. When stereo came and became popular, he was able to go back to those 8 tracks and make proper stereos, not fake stereos. So all those fabulous Atlantic classic masters were, the stereo versions were actually for real. And we used to do overdubs. I remember he telling me that Ray Charles didn't like the background parts sung by his ladies, and he said that he liked to sing it. So, and the song is called I Believe to My Soul, and Ray Charles sang all the backgrounds. So that's the use of an 8-track machine. 8-track at that time, there were only maybe 3 in existence. One, Les Paul had one, and Columbia had one, and I think maybe the State Department had it because they, you know, that's it. So Atlantic got the 4th 8-track machine.
Jerry Wexler was saying, I was talking to him the other day, and he was saying that most of the stuff that he did in Memphis, but especially in Muscle Shoals, he would send the stuff to you in New York, and you do the strings in New York.
Right.
Now, there were good reasons for doing that.
Sure, because in New York you have people from the Philharmonic freelancing, so we have better players here. Muscle Shoals, I think at that time, whether it was 4-track or 8-track, I'm not sure. But I remember that in like 1967, 68, it was 4-track. We did all the John Prines and all that on 4-track.
And also, I suppose, in terms of studio space, the studios in New York were more accommodating of a large section.
Definitely, definitely. Muscle Shoals was great for a rhythm section. But of course, we did fabulous horns, Muscle Shoals in Memphis, the Memphis Horns.
Did you write the arrangements for the Memphis Horns?
No, it would be a sort of a joint effort Tom had a lot to do with it too. We would sing a line, and they would take it from there, or they would come up with something, specifically parts, but then they would improve it.
So in other words, the idea was, I mean, he talked a lot about the collaborative nature of it, that everybody could put in ideas. And, and so what you're saying is those arrangements came together collaboratively.
Right.
There's one thing that Jerry Wexler said in his book, which was quite amusing, where he was obviously complimenting you, and he said you've done such a great job, and he said with very little kibitzing from me. And he said, at that point, Arif didn't need any kibitzing from me. Now, how do you feel about the point at which an arranger doesn't, becomes a producer? I mean, if you talk about, you could talk about perhaps a little bit about the psychology and the state of mind an arranger gets to when he gets that extra overview.
Well, Jerry Wexler was the senior producer, and he had the most difficult job of choosing the song, bringing the song in, talking to publishers, and also having artists in charge of artist relations. So myself and Tom Dowd were the younger assistants doing some of the creative stuff, definitely, but he had the big job of finding, son of a preacher man. We didn't do that. He found it, So, but we became sort of like a trio with specific functions for each person. And mine was usually to take care of the chords, go out into the studio and conduct, or not like classical conducting, like to be in charge of the musicians. Do you want to do that? That kind of thing, attitude. And Tommy recording in the booth with Wexler. And again, Wexler would press the button and says, that is too slow. Why don't you do this? So he was the boss. But we had a fabulous time. And as you mentioned it, if there's something good, he wouldn't kibitz. He wouldn't say anything. Sounds fine.
So, but I mean, at what point did you feel that you were really first of all, he says that at one point it was obvious that you were perfectly capable of producing on your own, and it's that change from being arranger to being arranger-producer. At what point did you feel that really came together?
He gave me an assignment with Brook Benton, and he gave me the song, Tony Joe White's Rainy Night in Georgia. He said, go and record. And we did. And when I came back with the tape, I thought that I had a great time doing, recording Brook Benton, and I had a, interaction with the musicians and etc. But when Ahmet and Jerry heard the tape, they said, "Wow, this is fantastic! This is going to be a hit." Really? I'm saying, really? Okay. Couldn't see the forest from the trees. So again, I had a certain vision for that particular song. It was like a mini small film. I had this harmonica overdub idea, and like a southern landscape, and nostalgic. So I put it together. It became a top 5 record.
Perhaps you could speak a little bit about the way, when you hear a song, that you conceive of an arrangement from start to finish. I mean, that you get how you get ideas and how you manifest those ideas. And maybe give an example of a specific song.
Well, I mean, that was one of them, Rainy Night in Georgia. I had the idea of a certain nostalgic feeling. Let me answer it in another way. How, instead of having a definite idea, how an arrangement was built block by block as you go was, I feel for you. all right, let's do this here. Well, wait a minute, this sounds good. All right, so let's use that and move on. So this is like adding stuff, subtracting stuff. And the way it finished, we were amazed at how, how it progressed. As opposed to, for example, From a Distance, Bette Midler's, I had a certain idea and where I wanted the strings, how to progress. Same thing with Wind Beneath My Wings. But I had to wait until the vocals were done. Everything was in place. Then, of course, with Wind Beneath My Wings, you're also dealing with movie people, film people. They may say, the first version you sent us with the strings here and the guitar there, the director likes it. So you can't touch that. If the director likes it, then that's one version. And the record version had more drums and more bass. Same vocal, same track, but slightly different arrangement. So we're not talking about writing with a pencil. We're talking about trying things and adding things. So this falls into the category of producer arranging.
Are you a long-distance truck driver who'll be driving across the country, stopping only at a filthy diner to relieve yourself of the interminable boredom? Great! While you're driving, join me, Richard Niles, for my podcast, Radio Richard. Intriguing interviews and peripatetic performances from master musicians like Randy Brecker, Wayne Shorter, Nile Rodgers, and the Yellow Jackets. And even if you don't drive a truck, I can guarantee that Radio Richard will spin your tires. Don't miss a moment of the fun. Subscribe to Radio